Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here after rookie minicamp with some winners and losers. Now, quick disclosure here. It's rookie minicamp. There are no real winners or losers. This is more or less an excuse for me to talk about some of the big players and big rookies that were at rookie minicamp to get you guys some information on what went down. Plus, I like to get creative and have a little fun with it, as you will soon find out with my losers. So my first winner from rookie minicamp is Drew Sanders. This one is kind of a no-doubter. If you live on the internet at all, you probably saw Drew Sanders' name a bunch during rookie minicamp. He made the biggest play of minicamp when he picked off Ben DiNucci for 6 during a 7-on-7 drill. Now, his athleticism really stood out. The biggest knock people had on Drew Sanders going into the draft was he's not great in coverage. I don't know, Jim. He just had a pick 6. I know it's Ben DiNucci and it's a 7-on-7 non-contact drill, but if you're that big of a liability in coverage, you're probably not getting a pick 6 or multiple pass breakups. Now, a lot of boots on the ground reporters said that he was the biggest star of minicamp, and Sean Payton definitely liked what he saw in the former Arkansas Razorback. Here's what he said. Unfortunately for Ben DiNucci, it was his first interception, and there was more to that interception if you looked at it. It was a good play by Sanders, and it was right in front of Greg Penner. It was a good play by Drew. He had a good break. Now, Denver's inside linebacker room already has its 2 starters in Jeudy and Alex Singleton, but I know this is really early. I'm getting really drunk off the Drew Sanders Kool-Aid, but man, it feels like if Drew Sanders was on 31 other teams, he might be starting week 1, but they gave a lot of money to Alex Singleton in free agency. Jeudy is on the second year of a 2-year contract. Sanders might not start week 1, but I guarantee you this much. If an injury pops up to one of those 2 starters, which, happened to Jeudy last year, and Drew Sanders gets an opportunity to start, something tells me he's one of those players that when he gets the starting job, he's never going to give it back. So watch out for that. But if both Jewell and Singleton stay healthy, Drew Sanders might come on for obvious passing situations, right? Help keep the edge rushers a little bit, fresh and whatnot, some special teams. He'll come on, no doubt about it. Denver's going to find a role for him. But like I said, if an injury pops up and he gets a chance to start in week 2 or week 3 or 4, Drew Sanders will be your starting inside linebacker for the rest of the season. Now, with that being said, who was your favorite pick from this past draft class? I'm going to go with Drew Sanders, but you can honestly make a fair argument for all 5 rookies selected, right? The last pick in their draft might be the first starter of the 5 of them because it's a center, and they don't really have a good one in Lloyd Cushenberry. So let me know who your favorite pick was from this draft class. Let's check out my second winner, and it's Ben DiNucci. He might have been a loser if he did not get a contract from Denver, despite throwing a pick 6 and being told he might have a future at Walmart. But we talked about this earlier here on the channel, but in case you missed it, Adam Schefter reporting Broncos are signing former XFL standout QB Ben DiNucci after his performance at the team's minicamp. So despite throwing a pick 6 in front of not just one boss, but your boss's boss, Denver still decided, let's toss this guy a 90-man roster spot. Sean Payton had this to say to Ben DiNucci. I told Ben, I said, Greg Penner owns Walmart. If it doesn't work out here, I'm sure there's a greeting opportunity somewhere at one of his local stores. So what an all-time backhanded compliment to get, saying if you don't quite work out as a quarterback, yeah, there are some Walmart stores that would love to have you go, I'm Ben DiNucci. Let me know if I can help you find anything here at your local Walmart. Now, as for the quarterback room, I think it's still going to be a 2-quarterback roster. So Ben DiNucci is battling with Jared Garantano, who they added late last season, for likely the practice squad position. But if DiNucci looks so good that they don't want to risk losing him on the practice squad, they might stick him on their 53-man roster when it's all said and done. Moving on to our third winner, it is Marvin Mims. You might have had some foreshadowing from that last quote we briefly looked at. So the first selection for Denver in this past draft class is, of course, going to be a winner, right? To be honest, they're all winners. It's rookie minicamp. There's no pads. It's 7-on-7. It's just a lot of drills and getting to know the playbook. He showcased his elite getaway speed. He had a lot of great battles with another third-round pick in Riley Moss. Now, he adds a new element of speed to this wide receiver room that's desperately needed, right? So you have Sutton, you have Patrick. Jeudy's a great route runner, and he's not slow by any stretch. But Marvin Mims, he is a big play machine waiting to happen. Now, this is what Cecil Lammey from Denver Sports said in his write-up after watching Marvin Mims at rookie minicamp. I think Mims could be the best wide receiver on their roster right now. That's no disrespect to any of the veterans on the roster, but none of them have the speed and quicks of Mims. Jerry Jeudy is a better route runner. Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick have great size. None of these three are the threat Mims is after the catch. And Marvin Mims is a big play machine. He averaged over 20 yards per reception his last 2 years in Norman. But I think it's a bit early to say he's better than Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, and Tim Patrick, right? Patrick, the last 2 seasons he played, had 11 touchdowns. Marvin Mims, I don't know if he's going to get more than 3 or 4 his rookie season. That might be on the generous side. Now, he could shoot up the wide receiver room, but if not, he's not going to have a ginormous role his rookie season. And this was more or less a pick for the future going, hey, there's a very, very good chance between Jeudy, Sutton, and Patrick, one of those 3 is off our roster in 2024. So when we're here in day 2, yeah, let's go get a pick that's just best player available. And even if he does not contribute a ton this season, we'll like what he can bring to us in the future. So now I want you all to go off what Cecil said. Who do you think will lead the Broncos in receiving? I think it's going to be Jerry Jeudy, but don't sleep on Tim Patrick. The way Sean Payton used his wide receivers in New Orleans with the slant boy Mike Thomas, Tim Patrick could be a good fit for that over the middle. So I don't quite know if we're going to see a lot of deep shots with Marvin Mims. After the season Russell Wilson had last year, they might be running the ball a lot and not being super aggressive downfield. So for that reason, I don't know, screw it. I'll go Tim Patrick. Oh, but I am sticking by Jeudy in terms of who my number 1 receiver is on this team, okay? Tim Patrick might lead them in receiving yards, but I still think Jeudy is the number 1 wide receiver on this team. To go back to what Cecil said about Mims being the best wide receiver on this roster, I mean, I get it. It's rookie minicamp. It's fun to, get drunk on all the awesome highlights and whatnot from non-padded practices. We surely did that last year. I mean, go back and read and watch some old videos and read articles from last year's rookie minicamp. Everyone was big on Nathaniel Hackett. Everyone was big on Montrell Washington. Look how that turned out. All right, moving on to our next winner here. That is going to be Riley Moss. I really just wanted an excuse to talk about Denver's top 3 picks in this past draft, and this is my way of doing it. So he was seen in a lot of contested matchups with Marvin Mims. They both had their fair share of wins. Now, Denver traded back into round 3, so there's going to be a decent, high bar for Riley Moss in his first few seasons, knowing this was not just a third-round pick. This was 2 third-round picks. Now, I think he's going to come in, and he's going to immediately compete for that CB2 job. Maybe if they like him so much, they move him to slot. But I think they'll probably be content with keeping K'Wan Williams there. When we look at Denver's cornerback room, it's a battle between Riley Moss and Damari Mathis for that outside corner gig. If they decide Surtain, Mathis, and Moss are their 3 best corners, well, Mathis makes probably more sense at the outside. So maybe Moss moves to the slot position. But for now, Riley Moss, he showed what you wanted to see in his rookie minicamp, which is he's not a disaster for some guy who's just coming out there with no pads on running around for a couple hours. My 5th and final winner before we look at the losers is you, Broncos Country. Why? We got our first real taste of Sean Payton, right? Our first real opportunity to go look and see what the new signal caller for the Denver Broncos looks like. And sure enough, here he is, and he is already sporting a visor. He's in peak Sean Payton mode, and he's an all-time football guy. There were a lot of, I shouldn't say great quotes that came out of Sean Payton because he wasn't a big talker, and that's actually going to be a nice segue to our first loser from Broncos minicamp, and that is Broncos media, because it kind of carries over. Sean Payton's in charge now. It's not going to be an open book. This is just the way it's going to operate under Sean Payton. He is not a big fan of going on and on when talking to the media if it's not the offseason and he's not sharing long-winded stories, right? Sean Payton actually is doing so much to encourage players to not speak to the media. He is offering up gift cards, $50 gift card for the most generic answer given to reporters. Like, that is already what he is doing, a Bill Belichick model of brainwashing the rookies, saying you are not going up to the media and running your mouth and giving your opinions and whatnot. You are going to give generic answers. So if you were looking for all-time press conferences from Sean Payton and players, that's probably not going to happen. And as for the media, it's going to be difficult, at least more difficult. They're going to have to dig deep a little bit to find some more stories because it is tight-lipped at Mile High under Sean Payton. So that is our first loser of minicamp. Denver media gets I don't want to say their first because there's been some press conferences and draft stuff, but first on-the-field taste of what it's like to, report on a team led by Sean Payton. My next loser, wide receivers. Again, these are not real losers. It's just maybe they're not glaring winners, okay? The reason why I've got wide receivers lumped into this is an article came out from ESPN where they wrote about a potential trade still in the works for one of their wide receivers. We'll get the wide receiver trade still coming here. So there it is. So ESPN wrote about the Broncos still potentially trading a wide receiver after adding Marvin Mims. Does it increase the possibility or probability of a trade? Maybe by a point or two, but not by a whole lot, right? I still think they're going to hold on to these receivers because they made it through the draft, and if a trade was going to happen, it likely would have been before the draft. But this is what Bill Barnwell from ESPN said. KJ Hamler might not make the team after battling injuries in each of his first 3 pro seasons, but either way, Mims isn't coming in to be the 4th wideout. It wouldn't be a surprise if Courtland Sutton, Jeudy, and Tim Patrick it would be a surprise if those 3 guys were all on the roster ahead of Mims come week 1. So I want to know, will the Broncos end up trading a wide receiver? I don't think so at this point, but hey, if an injury pops up, they're definitely going to be a team that's getting a lot of phone calls. All right, my third and final loser, it's me. It's actually me because I had a take that is not looking all that well, and this is one of those moments where I would love to be proven wrong, and that is Javonte Williams' injury return. So we have an injury update coming from Sean Payton on Javonte Williams. He said he expects Pookie to be back by training camp. And this was a major surprise to me and probably everyone. I mean, even Javonte Williams, I bet when he heard that, he's like, whoa, I got to be back by July, and I'm coming off an ACL, an LCL, and some more ligament tears from October. That's a quick turnaround for a major knee injury. Now, this is what Sean Payton told the media at the start of minicamp about Javonte Williams. I would tell you that we expect him to be ready for the start of training camp, and that's good news. His rehab is going well. I don't want to speak for him or Bo Lowry or anyone else, but we get the daily reports. And look, we're pretty tight-lipped relative to information going out, but I've read a lot, and I think his rehab's going well. So if I'm proven wrong because Javonte Williams comes back 2 months before I thought he might, I will own that, and I'll be happy to own that. I'm still a bit skeptical about Javonte Williams really returning by July. But hey, if it happens, awesome. That's going to do a lot for this team. But I definitely am not holding my breath and banking on Williams even returning week 1. Like, that still feels pretty early for a week 4 injury that when it happened to J.K. Dobbins, it took him 13 months to recover. But no 2 knees are the same.